trouble. Stay in trouble. Stay in trouble. I don't know. I like playing roles where guys are, you know, up against all odds. Like, you know, just, you know, all the cards are stacked against them. Guys, you know, he's screwed up a lot in life, and I think a bit of a rain cloud follows him around wherever he goes. But no matter how hard he tries to do right, it always ends up wrong. You know, he's just one of those guys. You know, and you know, he's been in love with this girl for a long time, but even when it comes to relationships, it's like he blows it. I mean, the guy always puts his foot in his mouth, and he just never really gets it right. And this is really, his back is up against the wall like it never has been before, because he's gonna lose this girl. And the thing I like is he rules, and he rules really big by violating parole and jumping on a plane and lies to her in hopes of winning her back. And she's in South Africa, so the guy gets to South Africa and immediately he's like a fish out of water. And so here he is in this world that's nothing like what he's familiar with, and everything that could possibly go wrong goes wrong.
When we were casting, we wanted an American, because an American coming down to South Africa is perfect. It's a stranger in a strange land. He doesn't know what's going on here. In America, in a movie set in America, it's familiar. There's not that much tension here. So that unfamiliar nature of an American in South Africa was good for the story. And then in terms of, you know, our leads, Paul was on top of the list, because Paul is a very layered performer. People don't often he doesn't often get a chance to show that. And I knew that this role could really bring out those things in Paul. And he did a fantastic job.
Remember that night? You had on that yellow dress? The new one? And it was raining? I was running around trying to catch all the raindrops to keep from getting wet. We were laughing so hard our stomachs hurt. Yeah, you and me, we used to have some good times, Angie. It's fun. It's hard to not pull for the guy. You don't really have a whole lot of time to, you know, create backstory. You just, through the duration of the story, and I think through his actions, and you hear his conviction and the way that you can see how he thinks. Mm-hmm. And I think that in that you care, and you want to see him pull it off. Mm-hmm.
Hello? Why is there a gun in my car?
We as filmmakers wanted to cast the best possible actor for the role, and having met Paul, I thought he'd be the perfect guy, both as an actor, but also when you're making an independent movie on a modest budget, you know, in a strange land, on the streets of Johannesburg, you also need a guy who's going to be a real partner with you in the venture, on and off the screen. And spending time with Paul, you just know he's going to be that guy. You know that he's going to be the non-movie star, the guy that is just with you in the trenches. And, you know, that was my hope and expectation, and it turned out to be the reality as well.
I think the journey of this character that Paul Walker plays is a guy who would typically walk the other way. He would rather kind of not be the guy in the middle, not be the one to raise his hand and say, hold up, you know, there's a problem here. And the journey he goes through in this film is everything is on his shoulders. If he's got to save the day. A guy who would typically walk away, and he makes the decision that he's going to go through it and try and right the wrong and expose the truth.
It's really representative of his life, being trapped in it. And now on top of it, he's in this foreign world. You know, it's like a bit of like almost Alice in Wonderland for him.
Burn it all away. What was very interesting, what attracted me to the project was the idea that there's a man with a whole set of odds against him, something that we can, all of us, relate to when we think about our daily lives, and what the obstacles and how we achieve overcoming those obstacles are, is ultimately what we hope will drive audiences to respond to this picture.
Hello?
You're meant to acknowledge receipt of the message.
We had cameras, you know, that were favorable for different shots, basically. So we had a tracking car that was driven by a hidden driver, so we could mount in certain places and so on and so forth. So we would just decide each day which vehicles were suited to which shots and the order of things for the day, and we just work it out like that. We didn't want a feeling of it being locked off, you know, like mounted rigid to the body, and it was too heavy to handheld. So we shot some tests. We tried bungee mounts. It was too out of control with the G-forces and things. So we ended up with a very interesting African airbag, we call it. And something we invented, you know, we blew up car tubes, and we mounted the camera on a head on a tube. So it's pretty much had the feeling of a human head.
If you've spent any time in Johannesburg, our vehicle weaving in and out of traffic with people hanging off of it and a bunch of cameras hanging off of it is not even close to the strangest thing that you're going to see on the streets of Johannesburg. Not even close. And people won't even bat an eye at that. You know, there are people on a motorcycle with a 6-foot stuffed mangy purple rabbit, and I'm not kidding. You'll see that. You'll see somebody driving by with stacks of coffins. You'll see somebody driving by with, you know, just raw meat, just in the back of a van. So our little minivan, not even batting an eye.
I also hope that people get a real glimpse of, you know, a part of the world and a city they haven't actually seen. I mean, I've lived in Johannesburg for 8 years, and there's a ton of stuff I hadn't seen before we started making this movie, because we went every nook and cranny all over the city to find all these great locations that are ultimately in the film.
What we do is we'd rehearse the sequences with obviously qualified stunt drivers, and the stunt double, so we would go through it and rehearse it, so they had all their marks. And then we'd get Paul into the driver's seat, let him drive it once, sort of at half pace, and then do a full speed rehearsal, and we would shoot it. We literally only had to do one rehearsal because Paul was fantastic. He picked it up quickly, and off we went.
Stuntmen, when they're doing this, generally speaking, it's very just 1, 2, 1, 2. But because the camera's on me while a lens is going out, because this is a small film and we have to get it in a short period of time, I have to act while doing this, right? Which I've never had that before. So I'm doing this, and the guys that are coming head on at me see this panicked face. They're used to seeing very cool, precise, just hit the beats, because they shoot the long shots wide first, and they just see the car dance. There's a couple of guys at the end, they pulled me aside and said, "Man, you really get into it." There's a couple of times I thought for sure we were gonna hit.
I like the fact that she's a young, black, South African woman fighting for a cause that is greater than herself.
Who are you? Who are you?
Who are you?
Who are you?
They wouldn't have left us to some random guys who don't believe the innocent man.
You just sit back, all right? I don't know what the hell you're talking about, and I don't really care. You just sit there and you shut up.
I had anticipating reading through the script together, just getting to know each other, so that when we come to playtime on screen, there's a dynamic. I walk into my first reading, and Paul's leaving, and then Mukunda's like, "You know what we decided? We decided you're not gonna become familiar, because in the movie, you're strangers."
This is my reality, and it's just become yours.
No, it hasn't become my reality. This isn't my reality.
Sometimes life
This is your reality.
The choice.
I gotta do what I gotta do. I just gotta stay out of trouble right now. You just shut up.
to do the right
No, I don't. You shut up.
Don't you get it? You cannot cut this out. You cannot.
I think it was a very effective tool, so that when she rolls out of the car and he discovers her for the first time, there's a real shock and lack of familiarity, and he doesn't know who or what she is. And it was something that he had in his mind to do, and I think it was very effective.
She's not glamour action girl. She's a real woman that was kidnapped and has been roughed and punched, and I have the bruises to show it because I've done all my own stunts.
Mukunda is very passionate. He has a lot of energy. He is very visual. He is very free-form. You know, he likes things to be organic. You know, he's one of those writer-directors, which generally speaking, those guys are very specific in terms of what they want, and sometimes they have difficulty thinking outside of the box. The thing that I liked about him is he was always open to, you know, try something else. He was always eager to hear the other's interpretation of what it was that he wrote, and I thought that was refreshing. I thought that was really cool.
It's a thriller, and it's, you know, it grips from the beginning and just doesn't stop. The character himself goes through real ordeals here, and there's a real kind of like, you know, array of emotions he has to go through, and it's a pretty tough shoot. Paul's on you know, he's on camera for 90 minutes. We don't really leave him, so it was kind of really tough. But he really knocked it out the park, and I was just so impressed. And I think people are going to be very impressed too. Besides Paul being an action hero, to see this dramatic side to him, I think, is a wonderful combination.
Don't you push me. Don't you push me.
Haven't you screwed up enough for one life, Mr. Woods?